Good morning, everyone. My name is Kerry Craig, and I am your host this morning. It is Prosperity Indiana's pleasure to have you participate on today's webinar, Partnering with Community Development Corporations and Community Housing Development Organizations. We wish to thank today's sponsor, Fifth Third Bank. Before I introduce Jacob Brown, Vice President and Business Banking Relationship Manager at Fifth Third Bank, for some opening remarks, I would like to review some housekeeping items. Please be aware that all audio is muted. If you would like to ask a question, there are two ways to do so. First, you can use the raised hand icon on your screen, and I will call on you to ask your question. Or you may type your question into the question and answer box, which is also located on your screen. We all know that technology can be trying these days, especially while working from home. So if you lose your connection, you may also reconnect using the link emailed to you. Finally, Prosperity Indiana members may access today's presentation and recording later this afternoon in our member portal. And now I wish to turn it over to Jacob Brown, Vice President and Banking Relationships Manager at Fifth Third Bank, for some opening remarks. Jacob?
Good morning. Thank you, Kerry. I appreciate the opportunity to be here again with you this week on behalf of Fifth Third Bank. And this is a topic that's pretty near and dear to my heart as a member of a board that is not a CDC and a member of another board that is a CDC. I've been able to witness firsthand the really great things and impact on people's lives that can come out of those partnerships. And so I really look forward to hearing what the presenters have today to share with us around those partnerships and topics. Now more than ever, Fifth Third Bank is proud to remind our communities we have been standing by their side for over 160 years, and that doesn't stop now. Given these unprecedented times, we're communicating more than ever about the resources and information available to secure the financial stability of our clients, our communities, and our families. At Fifth Third, we too are working diligently, much like the rest of you, to remain calm and consistent while trying to manage our organization. Through clear communications and discernment of current resources, we've mobilized every asset available to better serve our customers while remaining hyper-vigilant to the needs of our own employees. We will continue to be at the forefront of sharing our best practices and expertise throughout these unprecedented times, and we are grateful to Prosperity Indiana for gathering us all here today. We're excited to be a part of this webinar and hear the questions of our region and continue to grow our capacity to serve in the months to come. So thank you very much again for having me.
Thank you, Jacob, and thank you again to our partners at Fifth Third Bank for making today's webinar possible. For more than 30 years, Prosperity Indiana has mobilized members to create economic opportunities and improve social conditions, particularly for Hoosiers who are most disadvantaged. As a statewide cross-sector membership network of approximately 200 organizations and individuals, Prosperity Indiana's impact through members has strengthened communities and improved lives in rural, suburban, and urban areas in every county. It is our mission to build a better future for our communities by providing advocacy, leveraging resources, including providing training and consulting services, and engaging an empowered network of members to do this important work. Our members represent human services, the arts, legal aid, congregations, workforce development, real estate, health services, financial institutions, philanthropy, all levels of government, community action agencies, private and nonprofit affordable housing developers, local economic development organizations, and much more. If you are not a current member, please go to prosperityindiana.org to learn more. And now I'd like to introduce our speaker for today's webinar. John Franklin Hay is an advocate around issues of homelessness, affordable housing, and community renewal. John leads Near East Area Renewal, a nonprofit CDC that develops community as it creates great places for neighbors on Indy's Near East Side. Hay has directed Horizon House, the John Bonner Neighborhood Center, and Shepherd Community. Since 2009, NEAR has focused its efforts to revitalize a hard-hit neighborhood on the Near East Side of Indianapolis. Nearly 45% of St. Clair Place properties were vacant in 2009. Since then, using available affordable housing resources and developing only abandoned houses and vacant lots, NEAR has developed 122 homes for low to moderate income households in a major revitalization effort. In partnership with the Indianapolis Neighborhood Housing Partnership and the City of Indianapolis, NEAR has developed the Educators Village, a cluster of 22 affordable houses focused on helping Indianapolis public schools and urban charter schools retain great teachers. John graduated from Plainfield, Indiana High School and Olivet Nazarene University, and then earned a Master's of Divinity and Doctorate of Ministry graduate degrees. He occasionally teaches as adjunct faculty in the School of Public and Environmental Affairs at IUPUI. John is an active cyclist and writer. He participated in and led international fundraising bicycle rides through India, Vietnam, Kenya, Ireland, the Netherlands, and Chile. In 2013, he published a novel, What Saved Grace, which explores the beauty and complexity of compassion. It is my privilege to introduce John to speak with all of you this morning. John?
Thank you, Kerry. It is a privilege to talk with you today. I want to talk just real frankly about the work that we do as NEAR, as a community development corporation and as a community housing development organization. So we are a CHODO, and we are a CHODO because we develop affordable housing and are working in partnership and relationship with the City of Indianapolis Department of Metropolitan Development regarding that. And so that gives us an opportunity to work with them very closely and access to home and CDBG funds and some operating support. But we are primarily a community development corporation, a CDC. The slide shows our mission. We develop community as we create great places for neighbors. That's it. That's what we do. For us, when we say we develop community, that really we're talking about relationships. It's easier to build a house and to work on a community development project long-term than it is to really foster long-term relationships that create life in a community. The listening and the learning and the caring and the sharing, these are all really important to us. And for us, if we built homes or rehab homes without developing relationships, we would be missing one of the vital aspect of community. Next slide. Kerry, next slide. Here we go. So this slide shows what was happening on 9th Street in our neighborhood 2 years ago. The house on the right, in fact, all the houses on this side street looked a little bit like this. Again, we've been working in an area that's had over 45% vacancy in 2009. It was just a written off neighborhood, and the violence was incredible, but at the same time, there were really wonderful people living here and great housing stock. And so we went to work. So this slide to me just demonstrates what we are trying to do. When we can salvage a home, we do. When we can preserve a home, we do. When we can't, we demolish and then build in the style and in the sensitivity to the area. We follow what's called the St. Clair Place Pattern Book, which really gives credence to the houses that were developed here at the turn of the century. That would be turn of the 19th to the 20th century. And the house on the frame house on the left shows what that looks like. The next slide shows, go back one. Next slide shows what we call these the 9th Street cottages. These are the smallest homes that we have developed in the neighborhood. They're 1,100 square feet. There is a second floor with a bedroom and a bathroom and a loft, and the first floor has a bedroom and kitchen and living area. We were trying to build these to really reach folks that were significantly below 80% of area median income. Almost every home that we develop is focused on folks at 80% AMI. We use home funds to do what we do. We wanted to drive that price down and these houses sold for $99,000. And one of these homes was the 122nd home that we developed. Next slide. Yeah, so this is just kind of a range of what a community development corporation does. We give attention to placemaking and beautification of the neighborhood. We rehab homes. We pull people together on bike tours and social gatherings, and tries to build community and build relationships. And we also respond to needs in the community. The upper right corner is a photo of the Minnie Hartman Center, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. It's senior adult housing and childcare combined in what used to be a vacant Indianapolis public school building. Next slide. So we serve the Near East Side of Indianapolis. In the little map on the slide, what's in the blue in the upper right corner is what we call the Near East Side of Indianapolis. It's the first set of neighborhoods just east of downtown, and it goes all the way out to Emerson Avenue. At Emerson Avenue begins Irvington on the south end of that, and Community Heights on the north end of that. It goes from Interstate 70 on the north end and to Washington Street on the south end. And there are 19 distinct neighborhoods. If you're driving through on the interstate, all this stuff looks the same, but if you're walking through or biking through or driving through one of our streets, you begin to notice the texture, the different texture and the different nature of each neighborhood and their identities. And it's really wonderful for us to be a part of this. This also, by the way, coincides with the boundaries or the service area of the Near East Side Community Organization, NESCO. It's also the service area for the John Bonner Neighborhood Center. And so we try to stay consistent in that. Next slide. So we were designated, the Near East Side was designated a federal promise zone 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. It was an application process that we worked on together across different organizations. And NEAR serves as the primary housing coordinator and economic development facilitator for the Near East Promise Zone. There has been about $180 million so far that has been leveraged for the Promise Zone. We get no money through the Promise Zone. All we get are points on federal applications and 5 vistas that serve. And we've been able to leverage that for a significant investment over the past 3 or 4 years. Next slide. So we take our priorities from the Near East Side Quality of Life Plan. This was developed initially about 12 years ago, and we had 500 neighbors come together to work out a plan of what we wanted to do in the next 10 years. We recently just scrapped all of that and spent the last 18 months working on a new quality of life plan, and that will be our guiding focus really for the next 10 years. And so when we talk about what we as a CDC want to do, we're listening first, and we're taking our cues from that quality of life plan as neighbors have spoken into that, as stakeholders have spoken into that. We're looking at that very, very carefully. What is it? What are we saying that we want as a community in terms of affordable housing? What are the challenges that we have? What are the needs that are there? What are the capacities that we can leverage? And so that's what we do. And then we participate in a quarterly Quality of Life Neighborhood Summit. Not every neighborhood has this. This is something that we adopted from the Southeast neighborhood area about 8 years ago, and this helps us. So in the Neighborhood Quality of Life Summit, people can hold us accountable, ask us what we're doing, why we're doing it the way we're doing the way we're doing it, and it's pretty important to us, and we pay close attention to that. Next slide. So as a community development corporation, we're a nonprofit 501c3. We are community-based, and for us that means that we are governed by a resident-led board of directors, a volunteer board of directors. So 1/50% at least of our board of directors must live on the Near East Side, must live in our community. And we have a second level of that indicate that requires that 1/50% of our board of directors must be women or a minority. And so we more than max that as a board of directors, and I report to the board of directors and work closely with them as we meet together and grapple with the challenges and the issues and the possibilities and the planning for our community. Next slide. So we really believe in partnership at both the neighborhood and citywide levels. You'll hear me mention a number of times today our partnerships with the John Bonner Neighborhood Center and with Inglewood Community Development Corporation. Those are our two primary co-community developers. John Bonner Neighborhood Center is primarily a social service center, but they do have a community development aspect to what they do. Inglewood CDC is working specifically with the Inglewood neighborhood area, and it really emerged out of the Inglewood Christian Church. But they do a lot of work along East Washington Street, while most of our focus is really is in scattered site housing, affordable housing development, and we focus a lot on East 10th Street, which is kind of the north end of our service area. Inglewood really focuses on redevelopment of Washington Street, but we cooperate together in so many ways. So for us, the idea that we have to work with one another, we have to collaborate, we intentionally meet together. At noon today, I will meet together with what we call the Near East Side Agency Leaders Group, and we'll meet virtually. So Bonner Center near Inglewood will be a part of that. Westminster Neighborhood Services will be a part of that. Thomas Gregg Neighborhood School, which is it's not quite a charter school. It's a special locally controlled school here that is affiliated with IPS. We'll work with Shepherd Community Center. So there are a lot of folks that are part of this. For us, being a CDC is really a part of, really the strength of it is not what we can do alone, but what we can do together. Next slide. So since 2009, I guess, for the last 11 years, we focused on St. Clair Place, which was one of Indy's hardest hit blighted neighborhoods. About 45% vacancy in 2009. After the housing crisis, this neighborhood was already a tough place. And then you had a lot of evictions and a lot of foreclosures. And in addition to that, we had the largest mass murder in the history of city of Indianapolis. 7 family members were murdered on a street that I now live on Hamilton Avenue, and it was just a dark, dark time. And so, but out of the housing crisis came some support for redevelopment in urban neighborhoods, and that was, many of you know, as a neighborhood stabilization program. And so the Near East Side quality of life process asked the near to lead in investing in neighborhood revitalization in the toughest neighborhood, and that was St. Clair Place at the time. And so that's really what we've done, and really focused. I mean, we're moving beyond that now, but we've had a major investment there. Next slide. So we have, since 2009, developed 122 affordable homes in St. Clair Place, and the slide shows us really dedicating or whatever the 122nd home. The mayor's there and various people that were a part of that. So some of those 122 houses have been rehabs, and some of them are new homes. 32 of these 122 homes are rented properties. We developed them at the same level, the same quality as houses that we sold to homeowners, but they are now held by and leased by the John Bonner Neighborhood Center to households with incomes at 50% of their median income or less. And that's part of, that was part of our effort to really, as we developed and anticipated that there might be, ultimate desirability for folks to move into and live in this neighborhood, that there would always be a stock of housing that would be available to renting neighbors who are at 50% AMI or less. And again, that's managed by the John Bonner Neighborhood Center. Next slide. So we recently developed the Educators Village. It was really an idea that really came to us as we began to talk with the City of Indianapolis and with Teach for America and with Teach Plus and with IPS. And they began to talk about the loss of teachers who could not find affordable housing and safe housing in neighborhoods within the urban area and would move. They would take a job, say working in an IPS school or an urban charter school, but they couldn't find the housing that they wanted, and so they would move outside the county. And within a year or two, they would just move. They would move out. They would take a job outside the county. And so the idea of developing and providing, a cluster of houses that would be available to and targeted, I guess, marketed at least, not targeted, but marketed to urban school teachers was the idea behind this. So far, we have 20 houses developed. There are there are 8 teachers, eight educators who have purchased homes. Of course, all of our homes are equal opportunity housing. So anyone that makes an offer on the house and, we can settle on that, that's good. We couldn't hold them for teachers, but we certainly have done our best to try to make these available to teachers. So the biggest thing about the Educators Village, next slide, I'll show you this. So this was the plan that we developed these homes primarily on Rural Street, just south of 10th Street. If you live in Indianapolis or you come through Indianapolis, in the past, you would have recognized this as a really just a kind of a blighted, really bombed out area. And we purchased 18 properties through the Indianapolis City Land Bank, through Renew Indianapolis, and then purchased from vacant lots or empty houses from other property owners, and then went to work to develop these. Next slide. Yeah, so this was the groundbreaking, I guess, of sorts. There's Mayor Hogsett, and then this is one of the houses that it's a 1920 house, and this is what happens when you develop beyond that. So we're happy that we have 20 houses completed. We're finishing the last 2 right now, and happy again that there are at least 8 teachers that are part of that. We recently, I'm telling you all this to say this is the range and the possibility of a CDC, of community development corporations. They take various shapes and various forms. Some, it depends on what your mission is, and it depends on what your capacities are, your relationships, your partnerships, and what develops. And so, I feel like so far, I've been with NEAR since 2013, and the range of opportunities that we have had has really built on our initial capacity of developing scattered site single family homes, affordable homes in St. Clair Place. But then as a part of that, we've been able to do some other things. And so, every CDC has its own nature, and you start from where you are and you develop relationships and you grow with that. So one of the things we did is we were able to purchase, IPS was selling off a number of schools, vacant schools, about 6 years ago. So we purchased with Bonner Center, we purchased the IPS 78, which is at Sherman Drive, just south of Michigan Street. And have worked for 6 years to get the funding and the tax credits and the completion of it and all the funding together. So we've called it now the Minnie Hartman Center. It has 64 units of affordable senior adult housing. They're all full, and a full child daycare center that just opened. The next slides kind of show you the planning for this. Yeah, so this was the plan, the development plan for that. That's the overhead view of that. And the next slide shows you what it looks like now. So this is looking from a second floor of a class, what used to be a classroom. This is now the entrance to the child care center that just opened last week, operated by Shepherd Community Center. So we're really happy to do that kind of thing. This is still under construction. This was when it was still under construction, one of the classrooms for the child daycare center. So we've also been able to do some planning around brownfields. So we have a 50-acre urban brownfield right in the middle of the Near East Side. It used to be the home and the headquarters for RCA. At one point in time in the 1970s, there were 8,000 jobs that were located at this 50-acre site. RCA moved its headquarters to Carmel and then moved its remaining operations for TV assembly and whatever to Juarez, Mexico. And for the past really 20 years, this property has languished. And so we got an EPA planning grant to work for 2 years, to work with the community, to work with stakeholders, to work with neighbors, to develop a reuse and redevelopment plan. And it looks like this next slide. Yeah, well, this is what it looks like. This is what the 50 acres look like. Every building now even has been torn down, but here's the reuse site plan. So it is a plan to, go back one. It's a plan to, one more, there you go. Let's just look at this a second. So what you see in what's blue-gray is for development for light industrial. What's in red is commercial, what's in yellow is for multifamily housing. And at the corner of Michigan and Sherman, there at the point, the buildings that are in yellow also have red at the first level, so it'd be commercial in the first level. The city of Indianapolis has adopted this plan. It lives online at shermanparkplan.com, and you can look and see the whole plan there, what we presented. The city's adopted this. There is a planning firm that is now working to, they're doing the planning for the infrastructure development. Once that's done, we hope next year they'll be able to begin to move dirt and develop this for the community. This is, for us and for the community, the largest single economic development project in a generation. And we are really pumped about its progress and the possibilities for it. But again, this is also, the nature and the kind of range of work that a community development corporation can do. We do hope to develop affordable housing, multifamily affordable housing on the site. While we are in the process of helping this happen and coaxing it along, we'll continue to develop scattered site housing. Next slide. Yeah, so we also are working in terms of economic development. So we are developing, just a more vibrant economic life along East 10th Street. East 10th Street is the historic, kind of like Main Street through the Near East Side. It's the thread that links downtown to the Irvington area and the Community Heights area. There's a lot of old commercial sites along here. There has been a lot of vacancy. But in the past 10 years, there's also been a lot of investment and revitalization too. In the photo to the left is St. Clair Senior Apartments, which we developed with Riley Area Development Corporation about 8 years ago. On the right is People's Health Center. It's a new facility. Further in the background is John Bonner Neighborhood Center. The red brick building to the left is East 10th United Methodist Church, which has been a vital part of our partnership in the community. Next slide. We wanted to try to find a way to get folks more acquainted with the good businesses on the Near East Side. So we developed what we call the Near Indy Guide at nearindyguide.org. And we constantly update online access to most of the Near East Side restaurants, bars, breweries, parks, points of interest, and we also do local events. You can subscribe. We send out, our economic development director puts together just the latest news and the opportunities that are available. Not only posts them on Facebook, but she sends out a bi-weekly update, and we have about 3,000 folks subscribing to that and it just is really a lifeline to businesses. We've also developed the Near East Side Business Association, NEBA, that really is now developing a life of its own, and our Susan Vogt, our Economic Development Director, really becomes a facilitator of that. Next slide. So we are working with the John Bonner Neighborhood Center and Inglewood CDC to invest in what we've called Inspire 10th Street. It's a little LLC that we've created to redevelop the historic Rivoli Theater District. And the picture, that's the old Rivoli Theater, built and opened in 1927 as a Universal Studios theater. You know, it was a 1,500 seat theater with, you know, the Wurlitzer organ and all that kind of stuff. Its last iteration was as a rated X theater, but not before really, you know, Charlie Daniels Band played there, John Mellencamp played there. It's been closed for nearly 20 years. We've now worked with the city of Indianapolis to stabilize it. Next slide, I can show you inside it. Yeah, this is standing inside the Rivoli Theater. And so this part is stabilized. This was a theater part. Now we've stabilized the front section that goes out to 10th Street. And we are working now with the firm on reuse plans and reuse possibilities for the Rivoli Theater. And so we're looking forward to, I mean, hopefully by the end of this year, to having a firm plan in place. You know, it could be a theater, it could be, you know, related to childcare, it could be related to a food hub, it could be related to youth activities. There's just a wide range of things that can happen in this facility. There's not much demand here in Indianapolis, at least, for a 1,500 square foot facility. It would sit empty a lot, but there is a need for a lot of other things. What we've committed to is for it to have significant public use and public access to this facility. And that's, again, one of the things that we do in partnership, and one of the things we do as a CDC. Next slide. Yeah, so part of that is that we have, you know, cooperated together and collaborated together to what we're calling the 10 East Street development. And we have accessed funds, 3 years of funding for home funding and CDBG grants for affordable housing and commercial development along East 10th Street, and that's the Lift Indy project. And then we're able to access funding through Lilly Endowment for the 10 East arts investment. So ultimately, our goal is to redevelop the Rivoli Theater. But before then, we want to really nurture what has been, what is possible, and what is going on the Near East Side. And you can explore this at 10 East. I think 10eastarts.org online, and that's where this picture is coming from. Next slide. So one of the challenges that we've had is that in HUD's home funding program, typically the affordability of a home is for 5 years. So you build a home. So for us, it takes us about $200,000 to develop a home, whether it's new or rehabbed. We sell it for between $120,000 and $150,000 to a family at 80% of area median income. The challenge is that the family, according to stipulations by the city of Indianapolis, a family must live in the home for 5 years. And after 5 years, I mean, so it's an affordable then, but after 5 years, they can sell it to anyone for any amount. And we found that the longer we've been working in St. Clair Place, that, I mean, for the first 6 years, no one else was doing anything in St. Clair Place. We were even having trouble getting, you know, appraisals to evaluate well. But then, you know, kind of hit a break point or an even point, and then private developers have, you know, been coming in, and you know, it's you know, the potential for gentrification is absolutely there. So houses that we developed, say, you know, 6 or 7 years ago and sold for $120,000 are selling for over $250,000 now. Again, they lost their affordability. So we moved from trying to get people to live in the neighborhood to now trying to preserve affordability in the neighborhood. So those 32 homes we built that are under written management are now very important. But now we're holding about 30 properties in St. Clair Place until we can create a community land trust. And a community land trust would make a home, when it's sold at 80% of area median income, it would always be sold to a family at 80% of area median income. No matter how long you live in it, the next buyer must be at 80% AMI. It does limit the equity that can develop in a home, but for us, the greater value is to preserve affordability and income diversity and cultural diversity in our urban neighborhoods. And it's not just our neighborhood that we're working on this for, but across Indianapolis. So that's something that's in the process right now. I think there's maybe just one more or two slides. Next slide. Yeah, so we also have been working with the task force for the past 2 years, trying to better understand our renting neighbors. We have about 65% of the homes, of the occupied homes on the NARI side are rented properties. And so we have more renting neighbors than home owning neighbors. And yet we've discovered, or we see, that when we have community events with community festivals, neighborhood association meetings, the NARI Side Summit, the various things that we do, it's about 80%. It's about 80% homeowners, and so we've been asking questions of like, why is that, and where are our renting neighbors, and what do we need to understand more, and what can we do better, and how do we, as homeowning neighbors, and how do neighborhood associations and CDCs and social service organizations, and how do we, what do we need to understand and change to respond more fully and hospitably and equitably to our renting neighbors? And so to us, that's the Community Land Trust to preserve affordable housing and our renting neighbors initiative at this point, and along with the Sherman Park initiative, are the things that are really challenging us and moving us now. Again, I've tried to show you just the range of possibilities and of the activity of a Community Development Corporation. Again, this may be much wider than what you do. You may be doing things more widely than we are, but we say, we're staying focused and trying to be faithful to our area, to our neighborhood area, and to listen and to learn and to respond and to lead. And this is for us. This is what it looks like. We'll let these go. We'll just, Carrie, just let all these go through. I think I've talked enough, and we'll just maybe take some time to take questions now.
All right. Any questions for John? Remember to, you can either click the raised hand icon and I'll call on you and you can ask your question directly, or you can type your question into the question box and I will read out your question and John will answer it. John, you talked quite a bit about partnerships with other organizations and institutions in your catchment area. How do organizations partner with CDCs or CHODOs?
Well, I think for us, it's a lot of it is just building relationships or building upon existing relationships. It is crossing lines. And discovering, just trying to discover what's going on in the community with other organizations. There are organizations in the community that we would consider partners, though we don't have an official, memorandum of understanding or agreements, or we aren't in a project together. And one of those, but they are doing vital work, and we respect their work, and we, one of those would be for us, like Brookside Community Development Corporation, which comes out of the Brookside Community Church in the Brookside neighborhood. And what they are doing related to help assisting and coming alongside folks that are in reentry is just really incredible. I mean, they've developed and are providing some transitional housing. They are working with, an accountability one-on-one in the small groups with ex-felons. They are creating employment opportunities through the Cunningham Restaurant Group, and are really, I'm just really jazzed about what they're doing. So they're doing something that we were not touching or not essentially touching at all. We're passionate about reentry, and we see reentry, reentry, the need for reentry, policy changes for anyone in reentry. So, the relegation to the inability for a person in reentry to access standard affordable housing because of a felony, the inability of folks to be able to get the job, the work that they need. These are just huge barriers that really undermine, just mainstream community development. And these are our neighbors, and we look at it that way. So Brookside CDC is not an organization that we officially partner with, but they are part of the Near East Side Quality of Life Plan. They're part of who we are. They're part of what we how we cooperate together. So partnerships can take a lot, and a lot of different shapes and forms. And I've mostly talked about what's happening within the Near East Side. We do partner, with citywide organizations and CDCs across the city. We partner with the Indianapolis Neighborhood Housing Partnership, INHP, in a big way. We consider DMD a partner in what we do. We collaborate with church-based groups. There's just and obviously with neighborhood associations. It takes a lot of different partnership. Just takes a lot of different shapes and forms, and most of it is built on relationships, and most of it's built on just sitting down and talking about who does what are you doing, what's your passion, what are your capacities. I always try to, when there's a new a leader or a new staff member of any one of our neighborhood organizations or organizations that are working in the neighborhood, I like to get to know them and kind of show them the terrain, at least as we see it, and learn what they're doing, and see what happens from there.
Great, thank you, John. We have a question here from Donna Catalano, who asked, who do you use to build rehab your properties?
Oh, that's a great question. So all of our properties are put out to open bid, and we do that both through our website, and we have built a pretty substantial list of general contractors that we send out any bid to. Our bid criteria is always listed on our website under, if you go to our website, nearindy.org, you go into resources, and then you'll find the bids, the standard bid, anything that's open. We receive bids on a deadline, and we use a general contractor for every house. We don't develop it ourselves. We use all local general contractors. Either the lowest bid or the lowest bid with capacity is what HUD requires and what the city of Indianapolis requires. So we have probably a handful of diverse developers that have responded, and done really well over the past 10 years. And it's kind of a revolving, group. There were when we first started, there were probably 15 different general contractors, but some got weeded out simply because they didn't complete the job, or they had, incredible change orders that put us way over budget. And so you just kind of begin to work with, the folks that are responding and the folks that are doing great work, and anyone that comes in new, we take a fair, look at what's being proposed. So yeah, that's kind of how it works.
Great. This comes from David Hurley. He says, I appreciate the need to get into developing a rental housing property management capacity, every new program can be a challenge for CDCs in terms of expanding their program capacity. Has it been a challenge to develop a property management capacity in addition to homeownership housing?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So we decided, our board decided 10 years ago not to get into property management. So we have developed, we've developed rental property, the scattered site rental properties, and we turned that over to the John Bonner Neighborhood Center. So John Bonner Neighborhood Center manages those homes. We developed with Riley Area Development Corporation, St. Clair Senior Apartments, 32 affordable senior adult housing units. That is managed by an independent property management group from either different from Riley or or near. We recently developed Mini Hartman Center, so it's 64 units of housing. That is managed. That property management is by TWG, and so we've just, I mean, a CDC absolutely could develop, and many CDCs do develop and value the property management role. Say, for instance, Inglewood CDC on the Near East Side, they have become really good at property management of the properties that they have developed, and they have good staffing to do that. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to do. They also now are at a level where they have developed enough units where it really makes financial sense for them to do that. So there is a break point of having enough units to make it worth your while. And then you have to say, will we have the consistency of staffing, and will we do the level of work that that needs to be done, or could it be done by another property management group? If we can lay out the criteria and monitor that well. And for us, at least at this point, we've chosen to outsource our property management for Mini Hartman Center and for St. Clair Senior Apartments, and for what we call the Centennial Homes in St. Clair Place. So again, a number of CDCs they do really well at property management. If you don't have the resources, however, if you don't have the resources to maintain the properties, it can really be a problem. I just say there's got to be a margin. There's got to be enough resources that are coming through whatever your funding mechanism is to be able to care for the properties, and also to maintain good contact with and relationship with your tenants. And so that's just where we are right now. So different CDCs take different directions.
We do have some follow-up questions from both Donna and David, and this is from Donna. As with tenants, do you try to and stipulate using minority or woman-owned contractors?
We absolutely give care and attention to that, and we have of our 5 contractors right now, 2 are women-owned or minority-owned businesses. So absolutely, we pay close attention to that.
And this from David. I appreciate the need to preserve affordability by limiting capital appreciation of real estate through a community land trust. But can't this disadvantage low-income buyers by limiting their ability to accumulate wealth through home ownership?
Another great question. Thank you. It possibly could. It possibly could. Or it could also be where a person who purchases a community land trust home at a significantly lower cost than the properties around it, can utilize that lower mortgage payment to purchase, to save money, or to build wealth in other ways. most of the folks that purchase across the country, most of the folks that purchase a home through a community land trust, their next purchase is a market rate home, and they're able to do that because they have been able to save money or invest money and utilize that for the next purchase. The purpose of a community land trust home in a rapidly, I would just say a changing or transitioning neighborhood is to not drive out existing neighbors and to provide an opportunity for existing neighbors or low to moderate income households to have the same so-called advantages as a higher income buyer. So that, for instance, for St. Clair Place, the advantages are, we're close to downtown Indianapolis. It's very accessible. I mean, there are a lot of amenities that make this a desirable place, a place to live. It's not just the quality of the homes; it's accessibility, and it's a sense of place, and it's a sense of community. So there are trade-offs on that, and I would not argue with you at all on that. The advantage, you weigh the advantages and the disadvantages, and it's really up to a buyer to say, it comes down to where do I want to live, and how do I want to live, and what opportunity does this mean for me and for my household for this time. And for us as a community, it's like we really value again the income diversity and the permanence of affordable housing in an area that again the property values are rapidly increasing, and we want to do at least our best with whatever tools we can, and we've explored a number of different tools for preserving affordable housing, and this is the one that really makes for us the most sense to us.
Great, thank you, John, and thank you to those who asked their questions. Do we have any further participants who would like to ask a question of John? Okay, seeing or hearing none. We've got another question here from David. John, have you been successful in using your housing development activities to bolster neighborhood contractors and or provide skills training to neighborhood residents? I know this can be hard to combine these missions.
Yeah, David, another great question, but no, we have not been able to do that at this point. In the past, we have worked with Tech High School on their construction trades on some of the housings. We worked with Youth Build on some of the projects in the past. We're currently not connected with either of those at this point. We encourage our general contractors to utilize local subs, and again, all of our contractors are local, at least they're local to Indianapolis. So I would like to be doing better than we currently are related to that. So that's a great question.
Well, on behalf of Prosperity Indiana, I want to thank each of you for participating in today's webinar, partnering with community development corporations and community housing development organizations. Please look for an email from me later today inviting you to take a very brief survey. Your feedback is important as we use this information to enhance the quality of our webinars and training. Also, please check out our website, prosperityindiana.org, to view upcoming events and training in August. Next Monday, August 24th, we will host a webinar, The Role of Philanthropy in Comprehensive Community Development. The webinar begins at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and registration is open on our website. Before we close, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Fifth Third Bank, for its support in helping Prosperity Indiana to host these informative webinars. I also wish to thank our presenter, John Franklin Hay, for his incredible insights. Again, we appreciate your participation. This now concludes our webinar. Thank you, everyone.